It's never a good sign when the review embargo lives just a few hours before a movie is being released. And I bet Guy Ritchie's King Arthur, Legend of the Sword will get very mixed reviews. Not many people were even sold on the trailers, and neither was I. And so I was kind of surprised of how much I enjoyed it.
Wanted the prophecy. This is your prophecy. The man who pulled sword from stone. Behold, you're born king.
King Arthur, Legend of the Sword is not your typical take on the legend of King Arthur. Instead, the film was pitched as Lord of the Rings meets Guy Ritchie's Snatch. And I think that's a pretty accurate description. From the first shots in the movie, we go full fantasy, with giant elephants and dark magic. Guy Ritchie, who also co-wrote the screenplay, gives us a cool prologue, which sets the stage. We see Jude as the villain Vortigern, and Bana as the good king Uther, who sent away his little child Arthur so he won't be killed in the midst of Vortigern's evil revolt. Cut to a few years later when Arthur is growing up, raised by prostitutes living on the streets of Londinium. And cut, and cut, and cut. As he gets older and fiercer and more buffed as well, we get one of those famous Guy Ritchie montages accompanied by the opening credits. I was hooked instantly of this incredible sequence.
You felt it, didn't you?
I'm not the biggest fantasy guy and I'm not that familiar with the source material, but it's a legend, something that grew over time, something that can transform in my opinion, and I think this was a very interesting take on it. This is the street version of Arthur, with adrenaline-filled editing, super fast talking, badass behavior from almost every character, and that specific Guy Ritchie flavor.
Move!
Now tell me story. Tell me every detail.
You just have to be aware that in this King Arthur version there is a guy called Mike. There were so many sequences in this that got me pumped. What Ritchie is doing again and again is taking a sequence that would normally play out in a rather long chronological fashion and he's cutting it together into a very fast little montage. He's combining the present, for example, the characters talking about a certain plan, with the future, which is them acting out their previous formed plan. There are many instances here where different moments in the story's timeline are mashed together into a single scene or sequence, and it's often done with an incredible fast pace and a very surprising sense of humor. You won't believe how funny this movie is, and not because the characters are cracking jokes, but because the dialogue and the way everything acts out is so fast and poignant. The craziness is very strong with this one, and for me it was an absolute delight.
Raise that sword! Show the people the power of Excalibur!
Apart from the first montage that I mentioned earlier, there's another sequence in there that was so crazy and almost silly that it will probably make my list of most unique, amazing cinema moments of 2017. Arthur has to prove himself, and he's doing that by going to the so-called Dark Lands. It's basically a place where death is right around the corner, because that place is filled with all kinds of different monsters and traps. And again, it's cut together like madness, and with all the things Arthur has to face there, it gets to an almost ludicrous level, and it's very slapsticky. It won't be for everyone, but for me it was just on the edge of being amazing. Talking about Arthur, he's played by Charlie Hunnam, probably best known from Pacific Rim. I feared he would turn out to be just another throwaway generic action guy, but it turned out that he got a lot of charisma. He doesn't take shit from anyone in the movie, and he really comes across as someone who had to fight his whole life. And at the same time, he has that aura of not giving too much of a shit about anything, and I like that a lot. He also promised Guy Ritchie, who kept asking about his physique at the auditioning, that he will get into incredible shape for this film. And he totally did that. There's a lot of talking in King Arthur Legend of the Sword, and at the same time, the movie and its characters are very animalistic. It has a primal energy. Also, Jude Law gives a great Vortigern. Bad to the bone, and he's not just teasing, he really does do some terrible things. It's a cool movie, but not a great one. The story itself isn't that tense or surprising, and it's basically all good versus pure evil. And while Arthur and Vortigern are a pleasure to witness, the side characters are lacking. They do have potential and it was fun to watch, but they also share pretty much the same two characteristics. They are loyal and badass. Pretty much all of them. And then there is the mage, but she was kind of underdeveloped. What the movie lacks in story and characters, it makes up in style and energy, and Arthur is more of a superhero. Whenever he's touching the sword with both his hands, he enters a strange realm of absolute power. It's more like Thor than a classic medieval tale, but overall I really enjoyed Guy Ritchie's take on the material, and I would like to see him go forward with it. In German I'd say, wahnwitzig rasanter Guy Ritchie Action-Spaß. I give King Arthur Legend of the Sword 7 out of 10. It's more like 7.2, but I don't do that.
There's the king.
Alright, that's it. Like always, comment below, let me know what you think about King Arthur Legend of the Sword. And also let me know what is your favorite King Arthur adaptation, because I really need a recommendation as I'm not that familiar with it. You can hit me up on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram simply at TheJimmyCage. And if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, share, subscribe, whatever you like. And don't forget to hit the clock so we can rock.